Welcome GRD 121 Computer Graphics to our first practice assignment using Gravit. And the purpose of this assignment will be really to just confirm that you created a Gravit account and also to just go over the process of sharing it. We're going to do a few simple operations, positioning things, creating things, coloring things, and that's about it. So it's just to confirm that you know how to share the file, and it'll be like a little practice, and then we'll start doing some more in our next exercise. But that's what we'll do right here. So a couple things just to point out in MyWarren. If you go to Documents and Resources, this is handouts. It's showing handouts and bookmarks. You'll see a Unit 1 handout for this assignment. I don't have it posted yet, but it'll be a PDF file. So if you want to follow instructions, some people look at that, some people just watch the video, but that'll be there. Also under bookmarks, there'll be a link, which I didn't have it posted yet, but this is a link to the playlist to all the videos. So when you go to the playlist here, all your videos for this fall for computer graphics will be here. There's only 2 right now, but this will keep getting populated as I have time. And then also a link to Gravit Designer. Now, before I click on that link, well, I could click on this link right now. I'll just click on the link and I'll log in if it doesn't automatically log in. And let me just go back to MyWarren. One other thing to point out is under coursework, you should see an assignment, and I open it up even though there's nothing to do yet because I'm still recording it, but I open it up to go over the process of sharing the file. That's why it says do not complete, because sometimes people see the assignment open and try to do it, and I don't have anything posted yet. So when you see an assignment under Unit 1, what you need to do is click on this link, just click on it, and you'll see some instructions here. Now these aren't all the written instructions, but here it says see PDF instructions, it says see the video and the playlist, and then also this is the basic overview. So after creating an account, which you already did, and there's a video for that, we're going to do some simple operations, and we're going to share your link, and we're going to put it in the add comment section. So just a little preview, when you're finished, you're going to put your link in this add comment section. You're going to click here, and you're going to click on the link, this thing here, so you make sure it's a link, and we're going to make sure it opens in a new window, and that's where you're going to post your assignment, so you don't have to upload anything. So we're going to do that at the end of the assignment, and it shouldn't take very long. So what we're going to do is going to be very simple. So I'm going to go back to Gravit Designer, and I'm going to log in, and I'll log in, and I'm not going to save this. Now, first of all, it'll say create. Now, last time in the first video of creating an account, you can just hit create, but what I'm going to do here is we're going to make a print size. We're going to work in inches, just like we would in Illustrator. So I'm going to go here to paper size, and I'm going to choose US letter portrait, and I'll do that. So everything should be in inches when we get measurements and things like that. Here's our ruler here. Now, if you zoom in in Gravit, you could use Control plus on Windows or Command plus on a Mac. I'm on a Mac, so I'm doing Command plus, and you can see I'm zooming in here. And you could also hold your space bar. If you ever need to move around, you could kind of scan by holding your space bar and moving the page instead of using scroll bars to do that. So I'll zoom out again so I can see the whole page right now. Now it's kind of tiny right now, but that's all right. And if you ever didn't want to see this thing, if you go to View, you could turn off the Inspector panel. If you ever needed a lot more room, you could do that under View. And you could turn off the Layers panel if you ever just wanted a lot of room here. But I'm going to put them on for now, the layers, and I'll put on the Inspector panel. And we'll just kind of work in this middle area for now. I didn't save anything yet, but we'll eventually save this, and we'll call it 1 dash, because it's our first exercise. We'll call it 1 dash squares circle, because that's all we're going to do. So this will be very simple. So let's get to it. We're going to make a square first. So I'm going to go here to our square shape tools. There's square, circle, there's all kinds of shapes here. If you go down here, you'll see line, rectangle, ellipse, polygon, triangle, all this kind of stuff. So I'm going to go to rectangle. And if you ever need to know how to do something, they actually have a lot of little help here. You can click on Learn More. Looks like they even have little videos here, which is nice. Shows you how to do it. So that's nice that they have that. So I'm going to go to rectangle, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle. Any size. That's all I'm doing, and it makes it gray by default. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is go down to where it has fill. It's showing a fill down here, and there's no border, meaning there's no stroke. Illustrator calls it stroke, but we do not have a stroke, and they call it border here. So if you wanted to put one on, you'd have to hit the plus sign. But we're just going to fill it, and I'm just going to make it red. So I'm going to click here in the little circle here, right in here, and I'm going to choose just a regular red from here. And that's it, and there's no stroke on it. Now, I also want to make it 1 inch by 1 inch. Why? Because I want you to do that. So you're going to make it 1 inch by 1 inch. So I'm going to select it, and then I'm going to go over here to size. Now, they have these little up and down arrows where you can slide with your mouse up and down or with your trackpad and adjust the size up and down like that. Sometimes that's helpful. Or if you double click in here, you could just put in a number. So I'm going to double click, and I'm going to put 1, and then I'm going to hit my tab key, and I'm going to put 1, and I'll hit return or enter. Now it's a 1 inch by 1 inch square. Now I'm going to put it here in my upper corner. upper left corner. Now, instead of trying to position it numerically, what I'm going to do is just use some of the tools. They have a modify align. Now, these things are the same thing as the buttons over there. So it says align left. So let me just align left and see what it does. Now, that's the same thing as if I would have used that. That's align left. Now, they also have align middle and align top. Now, these over here are related to the page, specifically when you have one object selected. If I say align top, it puts it up there. So it's in the upper left corner of my page. Now, if I drug it there, if I moved it around, I could have drug it there and it would have snapped into place. But I just used this thing and this thing. Align left and align top. And that positions it there. And now I'm going to duplicate this thing. Now, first of all, let's see if they have a duplicate shortcut or edit. Maybe it's under edit. Edit, duplicate, Command D. They have a Command D here. And if you select that and do Command D, and I'm on a Mac, so you would do Control D on Windows. I'll do Command D, and it made a copy. Now, it made a copy directly on top, so I can't see it. If you look in layers, there's my second rectangle, and I'm just going to move it. Now, I'm going to delete it. Another way to duplicate something is just select it and hold down your Option key or your Alt key. If you're on Windows, hold the Alt key. If you're on a Mac, hold the Option key and just drag. Hold down the Alt key and just move it and leave go of your mouse first and then leave go of the Alt key. That's called a drag copy. And you could do that in Illustrator as well. So you can duplicate or you can do a drag copy, whatever's more comfortable for you. So what I'll do now, since I know these tools, I'm going to say align top and align middle. Or this is align center. I guess this is considered align center. Middle would be over here. Let's just hover over these. Align top, align bottom, align middle. Top, middle, and bottom are vertical. And this one is left, center, and right. So more of the specific terms like you'd use with text, they use for kind of left and right, and up and down, they use top, bottom, and middle. Now, I just got this message here, and it says, please sync the file. So I should be saving. So that's good. And it says, do you want to save? So I'll just hit yes, and I'll save it. And I'll give it a name, and I'll call it 1 dash squares, and I'll just call it circle. You don't have to put it, you could put an underscore in it, or just leave it like that. I'm going to call it 1 dash squares circle, because we're going to make squares and a circle. That makes sense. And it's exercise 1. So I'll just hit save down here. And now it's saved, and it should sync. So there it is up there. Okay, so now it's saved. So I have this thing here, and that's in the middle of the page. I'm going to make this green. I'll make it like RGB. I'll make 3 squares up here. RGB, they'll be on either side. So this one I'm going to make green, so just click here and just make it green. You can use a regular green. It's kind of a limeish green on here. If you wanted to make it a little darker, you can make it a little darker. And then click off, and there's our second circle. And then if I wanted to click on here and do either Control D on Windows or Command D, I'll do Command D, and there's my third one, and I'll move it over, and I could even position it right here. If you wanted to try these things out, this would be align right, and then align top, and then I'll make it blue, so it's RGB, and I'll just use a blue in here. So I'm just clicking in here to use that blue. So they're all positioned correctly right now. And one other thing I want you to do is let's name these. If you click on here, you can see it's that layer. So let's call this, double click right on the name, and then click in front of the R, and I'm just going to say red rectangle. And I'll hit enter. So I named that object, it's not really a layer, it's an object, is called red rectangle. And then if I click on here, you can see it's highlighting that layer, and I'm going to double click here, and then I'll click in front of the R, and I'll put green. Now if you called it square or something else, that's fine. And then this one obviously is the blue, so I'll click on it, double click on the name, and I'll call it blue rectangle, and hit enter when I'm done. So that way you can hide these, you could lock these. If I turned off my blue rectangle, I could do that with the little eyeball here. Turn it off and on. Same with the green, same with the red. Now I just want to see that you're able to do this, because navigating your way through layers in here and in Illustrator is very important. And they do have something called layer groups, they call them in here, which I think is very nice, because you don't really need to use layers. They just create separate objects until you want to organize things in a layer. And I think that makes sense. I think it makes more sense than the way Illustrator does it. They call just something layer 1, and you have things all over the place, and they have sublayers. So I like the way they do this. Unless you have a lot of objects, then you're going to have a lot of stuff in here. So we have our 3 objects in here right now. And if you ever want to like save, if you think, wow, I've been doing a lot, you could just go here and do file save. That will incrementally save and it'll say synchronizing with the cloud. Because remember, you're working out of the cloud. And the last thing we're going to do here, again, I told you this was going to be simple, this won't take long, is I'm going to draw a circle and we're going to put a gradient fill on it. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to choose ellipse, which ellipse could be any size circle. Circle is perfectly round, just like a square is a rectangle. So I'm going to do this and I'm just going to click and drag and any size to start. And it says ellipse over here. And for size, I'm going to make this one 2 by 2. So I'm going to double click in this field and put in a 2. And then I'll just hit tab so it jumps over to the other field and put a 2. And then I'll hit enter to kind of okay it. Now it's gray right now. I'm going to put a gradient on here. Now what I'll do is I'll go in here, click on the color, and instead of just choosing a color, I'm going to go to color fill and I'll choose Radial Gradient. Now Radial Gradient I'll use on a circle because it makes a gradient that kind of emanates from the center and it's kind of like rounded lines, but they're so smooth they don't look like lines. You'll see what I mean in a second. I'm sure you've seen a radial gradient before. And so here's a radial gradient. Now it starts at default black and white, just like Illustrator would do. And I'm going to zoom in. So I'm going to use Command plus, or you can use Control plus on Windows. I'm going to zoom into this. And like I said, you can always hold your space bar and move it around. So if you zoomed in and it wasn't in the right place, I'm going to do that and just look at this thing right now and click on it. Now when I click on it, another thing to point out is I'm using the pointer tool. And here's a little thing about the pointer tool. Now in Illustrator, they call it the selection tool. And we have a sub-select tool and they call it the direct selection tool in Illustrator. But here we call it the pointer and the sub-select tool. And I'll try to do that for now and stay with what it's called. Even though at times I'll probably use the Illustrator terms. But you call it the selection tool or pointer, whatever you want. Or call it the black arrow. That's fine too. And what I want to do here is just make a circle that has a yellow center and a red outside. So it's going to be a gradient. It'll blend from yellow to red. Now to do that, you just click on here, click on the gradient again, and you can see there's a little line around here. So you can click here, make sure you're on that color. That's the white. So that's the center of this, and I'm going to click on yellow. And now there's a yellow center. And now if I click on this end, it's black, and I'm going to change that to red. And now I have a circle with a red yellow gradient, and it's kind of 50%, it's kind of smooth. Now if you wanted to move the gradient itself so it's not in the center, maybe it's a highlight like in the upper left, the way you do that is on this thing, if you hover over this, it's kind of weird, you can move this around, but it makes kind of a distorted gradient. You can change these things. There's the length of the gradient in one direction, you can see what it's doing, and there, if you wanted a real small gradient, you could move these things. The points here, you can move them around and have a little gradient. And let's say you made it a little bit smaller. And you can make it a little smaller if you want. There's a little bit smaller. Just bring it in a little bit from the edges. And then what I'll do, I'll make it like a highlight. Now if you want to move this, physically move the highlight, you have to hover over until you see that 4 quad arrow. I call that a 4 quad arrow. It has 4 arrowheads on it. And then grab and just move it and put it up here and put it in the upper left at about, that's like around 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, somewhere up there. I'll just put it up there. And that's all I need right now. And then the last thing I'll do here, I'll click off of it and I'll put a stroke on here. Now they don't call it a stroke, they call it a border because it's Gravit. They can't use the term stroke. I guess that's copyrighted. But I'm just going to click a plus sign and add a border. And it's black, and I'll go down here. Now it's hard to see because they have that start the 15-day trial here. I guess when you're using free software, you have to put up with stuff like that. But I'll go down here. You could either double click in here or just go up. I'm going to make it like 4 point. Just make it a 4-point stroke. And again, if you need to double click in there, you could do that. And that's all we're going to do. That's it, except we're going to position this. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'll do Command minus or Control minus. And I just wanted to put it in the middle of the page. So that means I'm going to use Align Center. And I'm going to use Align Middle. That'll do it up and down. So that's on an 8.5 by 11 page. That's all I'm doing right now. And I'm going to do File Save. Because I already made a file, so I'm just saving it. And again, you might say, wow, that's really simple for our first exercise. It is, but I want to make sure you know how to share this as well. So what you're going to do once you're done, now that you made 3 squares and a circle, and you put a fill, a fill, a fill, and you position these using these line tools, you put a gradient on here, you move the gradient, you adjust it a little bit, you put a border on here, a black border. Now what you can do is you can share it because you're done with this. And you can go over here and hit share, and you'll get a link, and all you need to do is hit copy, and then go back to MyWarren, and I'm still in here, so that didn't take long at all, and I'm just going to add a comment, and I'm going to click on the link, and I'm going to paste it right here in the URL. Paste it right here. Now, it'll show the link here as well, and that's fine. Make sure you do this. Some people don't do this, but I would like if you do it because it's just easier for me, because then I don't have to use the back button and all that, and that just creates problems with MyWarren. But go here for target and make sure you target a new window so that when I click on your link, it'll open up in a new tab, and I'll be able to see your finished product in Gravit. So I'll hit OK, and there it is. That's all you have to do. That's it. But make sure, don't just paste it. Make sure you do the link thing and make sure you make it open in a new window. Because then I have to like control click on it or copy and paste it somewhere. So just do the link thing and make sure that it opens in a new window. And then you can hit save. And that's it. And I'll see that you have a comment, and that's all you have to do. So when this is open, I'll get rid of this message that says do not complete. And that's all you have to do. That's your first assignment. It's a little practice assignment. It's only because I want to practice you sharing it and making sure you have an account. That's all it is. So if you think it's super simple, it is. It's just for that purpose, just to make sure that everybody knows how to do that in the beginning. And then we'll do a little bit more after that. So that's our first little squares circle intro after creating our Gravit account.